16 Hmong and Laotian immigrants who helped the United States in the Vietnam War are now facing deportation after being arrested by Immigration and Customs Enforcement in Detroit. This isn't just another immigration story. This is about people whose families risked everything to help America fight communism and who are now being sent back to the very countries they fled from decades ago. The current wave of immigration enforcement has intensified dramatically. Just this week, we've seen armed federal agents conducting immigration operations across the country.
According to the National Day Labor Organizing Network, also known as Endalon, at least 20 people were detained outside in this parking lot in front of the Home Depot this morning. We do have video we want to show you. This was shared by a witness who was here and saw this all unfold. You can see what appears to be a person detained being walked through the lot by a federal agent. Then a car pulls up, and that person is placed inside. This happened around 9:30 this morning. You can see in the cell phone video federal agents that appear to be armed standing next to their truck as people are gathering video, and there's also what appears to be protesters standing outside on the other side of this fence. As these immigration operations continue, especially at local Home Depots,
Day laborers have been detained outside Home Depot stores, with witnesses capturing footage of people being placed in vehicles while protesters gather behind fences. Federal agents are now demanding proof of citizenship from anyone they suspect.
We the People has been on 29-year-old Brian Gavidia's back for 6 years, but it wasn't until this moment that he says made him really understand what it meant.
Every time I see it on video, it just it's like a bad memory in my brain, 100%.
Agents were conducting an operation outside his shop on June 12th.
I just went to go look. Honestly, did not know it was a crime to go look.
The video shows one agent pushing Brian up against the wall and demanding he prove his citizenship.
I truly believe I was a target because of my race. I believe I was racially profiled. I believe I was attacked because I was walking while brown.
He says agents held him, took his phone and real ID that proved he was a citizen.
Even American citizens are being pushed against walls and questioned about their status, their phones confiscated, their constitutional rights seemingly suspended in the name of enforcement. Across the nation, communities are organizing in response to these enforcement actions.
We deserve due process. Our rights are being violated, and we need to stop it with this. Our people are getting kidnapped. Anybody with a mask can come right now as we're doing this interview and take you. Your family won't know where you're at. That should be concerning. Whether you're an immigrant or not an immigrant, our rights are at risk. That is why I'm here today.
Some carrying upside-down American flags.
This flag, just the way it is, it's representing our nation in distress. We're witnessing an assault on the principles of freedom and liberty. This is just my way of saying that the nation needs to be more united.
Others held signs, chanted, and danced to live music blaring from a moving stage, all emphasizing peace.
I'm just glad that everybody's safe and that everybody's letting their voices being heard without necessarily choosing violence. You know what I'm saying? We have the First Amendment and let's use it. You know what I'm saying? Let's all express ourselves, but in a good, positive way so that the message, like I said, doesn't get diluted.
At the detention center, someone cut the police tape blocking off Alameda Street.
Protesters have taken to the streets with signs and upside-down American flags, symbolizing a nation in distress. They speak of terror in their communities, of due process being violated, of a system that seems to have forgotten basic human rights. Meanwhile, congressional leaders are now demanding transparency and accountability.
He's faced at the detention center in downtown LA. They say it was concerning they weren't allowed to take photos or videos inside and were required to give a 7-day advance notice. A lawsuit is underway to restore lawmakers' rights for these unannounced visits.
So this raised more questions than it answered, and I just have to say I'm deeply disturbed by what I saw and what I heard.
They wouldn't let us talk to any of the detainees. They took our phones and wouldn't let us take a picture.
We have to keep going because we have to get the message out.
They visited detention centers but were prohibited from taking photos or videos, required to give 7-day advance notice, and weren't allowed to speak with detainees. As one congressperson stated, they are deeply disturbed by what they witnessed. But to understand why the detention of these 16 Hmong and Laotian refugees matters so deeply, we need to go back to one of America's most secretive military operations, the CIA's secret war in Laos. Between 1961 and 1975, while most Americans focused on Vietnam, the CIA was conducting what would become the largest covert operation in its history, hidden in the mountains of Laos. And at the center of it all were the Hmong people. The Hmong don't have their own nation. They trace their ancestry back to China's southern provinces, but began migrating south in the early 1800s, fleeing conflict with the Chinese dynasty. Most settled in the highlands of northern Laos, establishing small villages and practicing slash-and-burn agriculture. They were mountain people, living their own way, speaking their own language, following their own traditions. But then came the Cold War, and suddenly their remote mountain homeland became strategically vital. As communist forces in Vietnam began spreading throughout Southeast Asia and into Laos, the United States had a problem. Under the 1962 Geneva Accords, Laos was supposed to remain neutral. The U.S. couldn't send ground troops without violating international law, but they also couldn't let the communists take control of Laos because it contained parts of the Ho Chi Minh Trail, the crucial supply route for North Vietnamese forces. So the CIA came up with a different solution. They would recruit the Hmong to fight a secret war on America's behalf. The Hmong had several advantages. They knew the terrain, they could navigate the difficult mountain passages, and as familial clans, the CIA could negotiate directly with Hmong leaders rather than dealing with formal diplomatic obligations. The key figure was General Vang Pao, a charismatic Hmong leader who had previously allied with the French against North Vietnamese forces. The CIA selected him for his leadership skills and his anti-communist stance. By January 1961, the first 1,000 rifles from the CIA were dropped off for General Vang Pao and his guerrilla troops. What followed was devastating. The CIA recruited and trained around 30,000 soldiers, mostly Hmong, but also including Min, Khmu, and other highland minorities. These weren't professional soldiers. They were farmers, villagers, mountain people who found themselves caught in a global confrontation between superpowers. The Hmong fighters, officially named the Special Guerrilla Units by 1969, had multiple roles. They conducted lightning attacks along the Ho Chi Minh Trail to ambush communist forces. They blocked the shipment of supplies to North Vietnamese troops. They searched and rescued American pilots who were shot down in Laos. Essentially, they served as America's proxy army, doing the job that U.S. ground forces would have done if they had been deployed. But the cost was horrific. By 1971, historians estimate that over 1/3 of the total Hmong population in Laos had died. Half of all Hmong males over the age of 15 were killed in combat. The losses were so severe that families had to give up sons as young as 10 years old to participate in the war. These child soldiers became known as carbine soldiers because they were usually no taller than an M1 carbine rifle. As one former CIA officer stationed in Laos recalled, I think we had sort of an informal rule that the boy had to be as tall as an M1 rifle to become a soldier, maybe about 10 years old. Families who refused to allow their young sons to participate were unable to receive protection, food, and aid from General Vang Pao and the CIA. Then came 1975 and everything changed. American forces withdrew from Southeast Asia. The communist Pathet Lao took control of Laos, and suddenly the Hmong who had fought so loyally for America found themselves marked for death. The new Pathet Lao government viewed Hmong fighters as a serious threat to its legitimacy, leading to widespread executions, imprisonments, and forced re-education camps. As one Hmong survivor later described, when the war was over and the American CIA was withdrawn from Laos, the communists took over and they said we, the Hmong people, were the hands, eyes, and ears of the American CIA. And they killed mostly men and young boys. It was very difficult for us to live there. After 1975, we moved to the jungle to hide. We had fought until 1978 without anyone's support. Fearing for their lives, around 100,000 Hmong fled to Thailand, where they lived in refugee camps. The journey was treacherous. Families walked and fought their way through jungles for months, crossing the Mekong River on bamboo rafts and inner tubes. Many didn't make it. From those Thai refugee camps, thousands of Hmong eventually resettled in the United States, France, Australia, and other countries. They came as refugees, grateful to finally be safe, ready to rebuild their lives in America. Many settled in places like Minnesota, Wisconsin, California, and Michigan, forming tight-knit communities and working to preserve their culture while adapting to American life. For decades, they lived quietly, many working blue-collar jobs, raising families, contributing to their communities. Some, like those recently arrested, made mistakes when they were young, minor crimes that in many cases were later expunged from their records. But under immigration law, even old convictions can make someone deportable. Which brings us to what happened on July 30th, 2025, in Detroit. 15 Hmong and Laotian immigrants received letters asking them to appear at the ice field office for what they believed was a routine appointment. Many had attended similar appointments before without incident, but this time was different. When they showed up, they were arrested. The Department of Homeland Security justified the arrests by describing the detainees as criminal illegal aliens, including child sex abusers, drug traffickers, a known gang member who obstructed a murder investigation, and other Laotian nationals with extensive criminal histories. ICE officials said all had been ordered removed by immigration judges, some as early as 2001, but families and advocates tell a different story. Take Lu Yang, a 47-year-old St. John's resident who came to U.S. as an infant in 1979. His family came as refugees from Laos after facing political violence for helping the U.S. military and CIA during the Vietnam War. He was born in a refugee camp in Thailand. As a young man, Yang made a mistake. At the advice of a court-appointed lawyer, he took a plea deal on a charge that resulted in him serving 10 months in prison. But according to his wife, Ann View, Yang became a pillar of the community after his release. The state of Michigan had his conviction expunged. He became active in Hmong community organizations and advocacy for Hmong veterans. Deporting him not only turns a respected community leader into a political casualty, it would be a grave and irreversible injustice, View said at a press conference. She also pointed out a crucial fact. Lao is not a citizen of Laos or Thailand. Both countries have rejected him over and over in the early 2000s, each time stating that he is not their citizen. He was born in a Thai refugee camp because of the United States war. This highlights a key issue. Many of these refugees were born in camps, not in Laos itself. They have no real connection to Laos beyond their ethnicity. Some have never even been to Laos, yet they're being deported there because that's where ICE considers them to be nationals. Historically, deportations to Laos have been difficult because Laos rarely issued travel documents for deportation. The country simply didn't want these people back. But that's changed under pressure from the Trump administration. In June 2025, the U.S. placed a partial travel ban on Laos and cut off visas for certain Lao individuals, citing visa overstays and failure to cooperate with U.S. deportation policy. The pressure worked. According to a consular officer at the Lao Embassy in Washington, the embassy has issued travel documents for 145 U.S. deportees to be accepted in Laos since the beginning of 2025. Typically, they accept about 10 deportees a year. When asked about the recent arrests, he said travel documents should be ready soon, less than a month. The human cost is devastating. Take Sufeng Yang, a Macomb County resident whose daughter spoke at a recent press conference. He is the backbone of my family. He is the source of strength for over 53 nieces and nephews. If you count everyone whose lives he has touched, there are over 300 people who would be devastated by his deportation, or consider the broader family impact. In one case, a father was arrested by plainclothes officers while at work, leaving 3 children under 10 years old unsupervised. Neighbors had to step in to care for them. These aren't hardened criminals, they're family men, community members, people who have built lives in America over decades. 27 Michigan lawmakers have signed a letter calling for the immediate release of the 16 detainees. State Representative Mai Xiong, Michigan's first Hmong American legislator, has been particularly vocal. Instead of our federal leaders focusing on policy changes to reform the immigration system, They are throwing billions of dollars into hiring more ICE officers while providing sign-on bonuses to snatch people. We are going to see more detainments, more deportations. If you are not upset, you should be. But this isn't just happening in Michigan. Similar arrests have been taking place across the country. In Minnesota, ICE arrested 11 Hmong men in the Twin Cities, with officials posting their arrest photos on social media, in what advocates call an intentionally dehumanizing manner. In total, as many as 15 Hmong Minnesotans are facing deportation, following a ramped-up campaign by federal immigration authorities. The timing is significant. These arrests are happening during what officials call stepped-up immigration enforcement under the Trump administration. IC. Arrests are up nationwide, but the targeting of Hmong and Laotian refugees feels particularly cruel given their history of service to America. What makes this especially painful is the lack of recognition these veterans have received. Despite their service in America's secret war, Hmong soldiers are not officially recognized as Vietnam War veterans, so they don't qualify for veteran benefits. They fought America's war, lost their homeland, came here as refugees, and now they're being deported for crimes that in many cases happened decades ago when they were young. The deportations also raise serious safety concerns, as Ann View pointed out about her husband. With Lou's public advocacy here in America for our Hmong veterans and our Hmong American people, this significantly increases that he will be identified and persecuted upon arrival. He will receive a death sentence. The Hmong who are being deported aren't just facing exile, they're potentially facing persecution or death for their association with America. This story reveals something troubling about how America treats its allies. The Hmong kept their end of the bargain. They fought America's secret war, suffered massive casualties, lost their homeland, and came to the U.S. as refugees grateful for safety and opportunity. Many became productive members of American communities. But when some made mistakes, often minor ones, often decades ago, America is now sending them back to face potential persecution. It's worth remembering what former CIA Director William Colby said about General Vang Pao. He called him the biggest hero of the Vietnam War. Many Hmong people believe General Vang Pao descended from the heavens to lead them. But where is that recognition now? Where is America's gratitude for the people who fought its secret war? The secret war in Laos remained largely classified until the 1990s, when the CIA officially acknowledged its involvement in 1994. Further declassifications followed in the 2000s. But despite this acknowledgement, despite the documented service of Hmong fighters, despite the massive sacrifices they made for America, they're still not officially recognized as American service veterans. This case also highlights broader questions about immigration enforcement. Should people who came to America as refugees, who have built lives here over decades, who have families and community ties, be deported for old convictions? Should America be pressuring other countries to take deportees they don't want? And should America be deporting people to countries where they may face persecution? The families affected by these arrests aren't giving up. They're organizing, holding press conferences, lobbying lawmakers. They're telling their stories, reminding America of their service, fighting for their loved ones. But time is running out. With travel documents being processed quickly, these deportations could happen within weeks. What happens next will say something important about American values. Will America stand by the people who fought its secret war? Will it recognize that these aren't just immigration cases, but questions of loyalty, service, and moral obligation? Or will it continue to deport people who risked everything to help America, sending them back to face uncertain and potentially dangerous futures? The Hmong and Laotian refugees being detained didn't choose to be part of America's Cold War strategy. They were farmers and villagers who got caught up in a global confrontation between superpowers, but when America asked for their help, they gave it at enormous cost to themselves and their families. Now America has the chance to show whether it remembers that sacrifice or whether it will abandon its allies once again. For the families waiting and hoping, for the communities organizing and advocating, for the lawmakers trying to intervene, This isn't just about immigration policy. It's about whether America keeps faith with those who kept faith with America. And right now, that faith is being tested in detention centers in Louisiana and Texas, where 16 people who helped America fight communism are waiting to learn whether America will fight for them.